Joel David Coen, born November 29, 1954, and Ethan Jesse Coen, born September 21, 1957, collectively referred to as the Coen brothers, are American filmmakers. Their films span many genres and styles, which they frequently subvert or parody. Their best-reviewed works include Fargo, 1996, The Big Lebowski, 1998, No Country for Old Men, 2007, A Serious Man, 2009, True Grit, 2010, and Inside Llewyn Davis, 2013. The brothers write, direct and produce their films jointly, although until The Ladykillers, 2004, Joel received sole credit for directing and Ethan for producing. They often alternate top billing for their screenplays while sharing editing credits under the alias Roderick Jaynes. They have been nominated for 13 Academy Awards together, and individually for 1 award each, winning Best Original Screenplay for Fargo and Best Picture, Best Director and Best Adapted Screenplay for No Country for Old Men. The duo also won the Palme d'Or for Barton Fink and were nominated for Fargo. The Coen brothers have written a number of films they did not direct, including the biographical war drama Unbroken, 2014, the historical legal thriller Bridge of Spies, 2015, and lesser-known, commercially unsuccessful comedies such as Crime Wave, 1985, The Naked Man, 1998, and Gambit, 2012. Ethan is also a writer of short stories, theater and poetry. The brothers' films No Country for Old Men, A Serious Man and Inside Llewyn Davis have been ranked in the BBC's 2016 poll of the greatest motion pictures since 2000. Background. Early life. Joel and Ethan Coen were born and raised in St. Louis Park, Minnesota, a suburb of Minneapolis. Their mother, Rena "Nay" Newman, was an art historian at St. Cloud State University, and their father, Edward Coen, was an economist at the University of Minnesota. Their family is Jewish. When they were children, Joel saved money from mowing lawns to buy a Vivitar Super 8 camera. Together, the brothers remade movies they saw on television, with their neighborhood friend Mark Zimmering, as the star. Their first attempt was a romp entitled Henry Kissinger, Man on the Go. Cornel Wilde's The Naked Prey, 1965, became their Zimmers in Zambia, which also featured Ethan as a native with a spear. Joel Coen has said, in regards to whether our background influences our filmmaking, who knows? We don't think about it. There's no doubt that our Jewish heritage affects how we see things. Quote, education. Joel and Ethan graduated from St. Louis Park High School in 1973 and 1976, respectively, and from Bard College at Simon's Rock in Great Barrington, Massachusetts. Joel then spent 4 years in the undergraduate film program at New York University, where he made a 30-minute thesis film called Soundings. Ethan went on to Princeton University and earned an undergraduate degree in philosophy in 1979. His senior thesis was a 41-page essay, Two Views of Wittgenstein's Later Philosophy. Personal lives. Joel has been married to actress Frances McDormand since 1984. They adopted a son from Paraguay named Pedro McDormand Coen. McDormand has acted in several Coen brothers films, including a minor appearance in Miller's Crossing, a supporting role in Raising Arizona, lead roles in Blood Simple and The Man Who Wasn't There, her Academy Award-winning role in Fargo, and her starring role in Burn After Reading. She also did the voiceover in Barton Fink. Ethan married film editor Tricia Cook in 1990. They have 2 children, daughter Dusty and son Buster Jacob, who goes to Vassar College. Both couples live in New York. Career: 1980s. After graduating from New York University, Joel worked as a production assistant on a variety of industrial films and music videos. He developed a talent for film editing and met Sam Raimi while assisting Enda Ruth Paul in editing Raimi's first feature film, The Evil Dead, 1981. In 1984, the brothers wrote and directed Blood Simple, their first commercial film together. Set in Texas, the film tells the tale of a shifty, sleazy bar owner who hires a private detective to kill his wife and her lover. The film contains elements that point to their future direction, distinctive homages to genre movies, in this case noir and horror, plot twists layered over a simple story, dark humor, and mise-en-scene. The film starred Frances McDormand, who would go on to feature in many of the Coen brothers' films, and marry Joel. Upon release, the film received much praise and won awards for Joel's direction at both the Sundance and Independent Spirit Awards. Their next project was Crime Wave, 1985, directed by Sam Raimi and written by the Coens and Raimi. Joel and Raimi also made cameo appearances in Spies Like Us, 1985. The brothers' next film was Raising Arizona, 1987. The story of an unlikely married couple, ex-convict H.I. Nicolas Cage, and police officer Ed Holly Hunter, who long for a baby but are unable to conceive. When a local furniture tycoon, Trey Wilson, appears on television with his newly born quintuplets and jokes that they are more than we can handle, H.I. steals one of the quintuplets to bring up as their own. The film featured Frances McDormand, John Goodman, William Forsythe, Sam McMurray, and Randall Tex Cobb. 1990s. Miller's Crossing, released in 1990, starred Albert Finney, Gabriel Byrne, and John Turturro. The film is about feuding gangsters in the Prohibition era, inspired by Dashiell Hammett's novels Red Harvest, 1920, and The Glass Key, serialized in 1930. The following year, they released Barton Fink, 1991, set in 1941, in which a New York playwright, the eponymous Barton Fink played by John Turturro, moves to Los Angeles to write a B-movie. He settles down in his hotel room to commence writing but suffers writer's block until he is invaded by the man next door, John Goodman. Barton Fink was a critical success, earning Oscar nominations and winning 3 major awards at the 1991 Cannes Film Festival, including the Palme d'Or. It was their first film with cinematographer Roger Deakins, a key collaborator for the next 25 years. The Hudsucker Proxy, co-written with Raimi, was released in 1994. In it, the board of a large corporation in 1958 New York City appoints a naive schmo as president, Tim Robbins, to sabotage the firm's own share price, so the board could later purchase their company's stock cheaply to retain ownership. However, their plan backfires when the new president invents the hula hoop. The film bombed at the box office. $30 million budget, $3 million gross in the USA. Even though it featured Paul Newman, Jennifer Jason Leigh and Frances McDormand in a brief uncredited appearance. The Coens wrote and directed the crime thriller Fargo, 1996, set in the home state of Minnesota. Jerry Lundegaard, William H. Macy, who has serious financial problems, has his wife kidnapped so that his wealthy father-in-law will pay the ransom. His plan goes wrong when the kidnappers deviate from the plan and local cop Marge Gunderson McDormand starts to investigate. Produced on a small budget of $7 million, Fargo was a critical and commercial success. with particular praise for its dialogue and McDormand's performance. The film received several awards, including a BAFTA Award and Cannes Award for direction, and 2 Oscars, a Best Original Screenplay and a Best Actress Oscar for McDormand. In the Coens' next film, the black comedy The Big Lebowski, 1998, the dude, Jeff Bridges, a Los Angeles slacker, is used as an unwitting pawn in a kidnapping plot with his bowling buddies, Steve Buscemi and John Goodman. Despite initially receiving mixed reviews and underperforming at the box office, it is now well received by critics, and is regarded as a classic cult film. An annual festival, Lebowski Fest, began in 2002, and many adhere to the philosophy of dudism. Entertainment Weekly ranked it 8th on their funniest movies of the past 25 years list in 2008. Gates of Eden, a collection of short stories written by Ethan Coen, was published in 1998. The same year, Ethan co-wrote the comedy The Naked Man, directed by their storyboard artist J. Todd Anderson. 2000s. The Coen brothers' next film, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? 2000, was another critical and commercial success. The title was borrowed from the Preston Sturges film Sullivan's Travels, 1941, whose lead character, movie director John Sullivan, had planned to make a film with that title, based loosely on Homer's Odyssey, complete with the Cyclops, sirens, al. The story is set in Mississippi in the 1930s and follows a trio of escaped convicts who, after absconding from a chain gang, journey home to recover bank heist loot the leader has buried, but they have no clear perception of where they are going. The film highlighted the comic abilities of George Clooney as the oddball lead character Ulysses Everett McGill, and of Tim Blake Nelson and John Turturro, his sidekicks. The film's bluegrass and old-time soundtrack, offbeat humor and digitally desaturated cinematography made it a critical and commercial hit. It was the first feature film to use all-digital color grading. The film's soundtrack CD was also successful, spawning a concert and concert documentary DVD, Down from the Mountain, that coincided with a resurgence in interest in American folk music. The Coen brothers next produced another noirish thriller, The Man Who Wasn't There, 2001. Set in late 1940s California, a laconic chain-smoking barber, played by Billy Bob Thornton, discovers a way to blackmail his wife's lover and use the proceeds to invest in a dry cleaning business. The Coens directed the 2003 film Intolerable Cruelty, starring George Clooney and Catherine Zeta-Jones, a throwback to the romantic comedies of the 1940s. It focuses on hotshot divorce lawyer Miles Massey and a beautiful divorcee whom Massey managed to prevent from receiving any money in her divorce. She vows to get even with him while, at the same time, he becomes smitten with her. Intolerable Cruelty received generally positive reviews, although it is considered one of the duo's weaker films. Also that year, they executive produced and did an uncredited rewrite of the Christmas black comedy Bad Santa, which garnered positive reviews. In 2004, the Coen brothers made The Ladykillers, a remake of the Ealing Studios classic. A professor, played by Tom Hanks, assembles a team to rob a casino. They rent a room in an elderly woman's home to plan the heist. When the woman discovers the plot, the gang decides to murder her to ensure her silence. The Coens received some of the most lukewarm reviews of their careers in response to this film. They directed 2 short films for 2 separate anthology films, Paris, Je Time, Tuileries, 2006, starring Steve Buscemi, and To Each His Own Cinema, World Cinema, 2007, starring Josh Brolin. Both films received highly positive reviews. No Country for Old Men, released in November 2007, closely follows the 2005 novel of the same name by Cormac McCarthy. Vietnam veteran Llewyn Moss, Josh Brolin, living near the Texas-Mexico border, stumbles upon and decides to take $2 million in drug money. He must then go on the run to avoid those trying to recover the money, including sociopathic killer Anton Chigurh, Javier Bardem, who confounds both Llewellyn and local sheriff Ed Tom Bell, Tommy Lee Jones. The plotline is a return to noir themes, but in some respects it was a departure for the Coens, with the exception of Stephen Root. None of the stable of regular Coen actors appears in the film. No Country received nearly universal critical praise, garnering a 94% fresh rating at Rotten Tomatoes. It won 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Director and Best Adapted Screenplay, all of which were received by the Coens, as well as Best Supporting Actor received by Bardem. The Coens, as Roderick Jaynes, were also nominated for Best Editor, but lost. It was the first time since 1961, when Jerome Robbins and Robert Wise won for West Side Story, that 2 directors received the Academy Award for Best Director at the same time. In January 2008, Ethan Coen's play Almost an Evening premiered off-Broadway at the Atlantic Theatre Company Stage 2, opening to mostly enthusiastic reviews. The initial run closed on February 10, 2008, but the same production was moved to a new theater for a commercial off-Broadway run at the Bleecker Street Theatre in New York City, produced by the Atlantic Theatre Company. It ran there from March 2008 through June 1, 2008, and Art Meets Commerce. In May 2009, the Atlantic Theatre Company produced Coen's Officers as part of their main stage season at the Linda Gross Theatre. Burn After Reading, a comedy starring Brad Pitt and George Clooney, was released September 12, 2008, and portrays a collision course between a gym instructor, spies and internet dating. Released to positive reviews, it debuted at number 1 in North America. In 2009, the Coens directed a television commercial titled Air Freshener for the Reality Coalition. They next directed A Serious Man, released October 2, 2009, a gentle but dark period comedy set in 1967 with a low budget. The film is based loosely on the Coens' own childhoods in an academic family in the largely Jewish suburb of St. Louis Park, Minnesota. It also drew comparisons to the Book of Job. Filming took place late in the summer of 2008. In the neighborhoods of Roseville and Bloomington, Minnesota, at Normandale Community College, and at St. Olaf College. The film was nominated for the Oscars for Best Picture and Best Original Screenplay. 2010's True Grit, 2010, is based on the 1968 novel of the same name by Charles Portis. Filming was done in Texas and New Mexico. Haley Steinfeld stars as Mattie Ross along with Jeff Bridges as Marshall Rooster Cogburn. Matt Damon and Josh Brolin also appear in the movie. True Grit was nominated for 10 Academy Awards, including Best Picture. Ethan Coen wrote the one-act comedy Talking Cure, which was produced on Broadway in 2011 as part of Relatively Speaking, an anthology of 3 one-act plays by Coen, Elaine May, and Woody Allen. Inside Llewyn Davis, 2013, is a treatise on the 1960s folk music scene in New York City's Greenwich Village and very loosely based on the life of Dave Van Ronk. The film stars Oscar Isaac, Justin Timberlake and Carey Mulligan. It won the Grand Prix at the 2013 Cannes Film Festival, where it was highly praised by critics. They received a Golden Globe nomination for Best Original Song for "Please Mr. Kennedy," which is heard in the film Fargo, a television series inspired by their film of the same name, premiered in June 2014 on the FX network. It is created by Noah Hawley and executive produced by the brothers. The Coens also contributed to the screenplay for Unbroken, along with Richard LaGravenese and William Nicholson. The film, directed by Angelina Jolie, and based on Laura Hillenbrand's non-fiction book, Unbroken, a World War II story of survival, resilience, and redemption. 2010, which itself was based on the life of Louis Zamperini, was released on December 25, 2014 to average reviews. The Coens co-wrote, with playwright Matt Charman, the screenplay for the dramatic historical thriller Bridge of Spies, about the 1960 U-2 incident. The film was directed by Steven Spielberg, and released on October 4, 2015 to critical acclaim. They were nominated for the Best Original Screenplay at the 88th Academy Awards. The Coens' most recent film, Hail, Caesar, is about a fixer in 1950s Hollywood trying to discover what happened to a cast member who vanishes during filming. It stars Coen regulars George Clooney, Josh Brolin, Frances McDormand, Scarlett Johansson and Tilda Swinton, as well as Channing Tatum, Ralph Fiennes, Jonah Hill, and Alden Ehrenreich. The film was released on February 5, 2016. In 2016, the Coens gave to the longtime friend and collaborator John Turturro the right to use his character of Jesus Quintana from The Big Lebowski in his own spin-off, Going Places, which he would also write and direct. It is currently filming, although the Coens have no involvement in the production. The Coens first wrote the script for Suburbicon in 1986. It was eventually announced that the film would be directed by George Clooney and distributed by Paramount Pictures. Filming began in October 2016. Planned and uncompleted projects. In a 1998 interview with Alex Simon for Venice magazine, the Coens discussed a project called The Contemplations, which would be an anthology of short films based on stories in a leather-bound book from a dusty old library. In 2001, Joel stated that a Cold War comedy called 62 Skidoo is one I'd like to do someday. The Coens had hoped to film James Dickey's novel To the White Sea. They were due to start production in 2002, with Jeremy Thomas producing and Brad Pitt in the lead role. But it was cancelled when the Coens felt that the budget offered was not enough to successfully produce the film. In 2008, it had been announced that the Coen brothers would write and direct an adaptation of Michael Chabon's novel, The Yiddish Policeman's Union. 2007, they were to produce the film with Scott Rudin for Columbia Pictures. In the fall of 2012, however, Chabon told Mother Jones that the Coen brothers wrote a draft of a script and then they seemed to move on, and that the film rights had lapsed back to me. In 2009, the Coen brothers stated that they are interested in making a sequel to Barton Fink called Old Fink, which would take place in the 1960s, around the same time period as A Serious Man. The brothers also stated that they have had talks with John Turturro in reprising his role as Fink, but they were waiting until he was actually old enough to play the part. In 2011, the brothers were working on a television project called Harv Cabo, about a quirky Los Angeles private eye for Imagine Television. In December 2013, the Coens stated in an interview that they are working on a new musical comedy centered around an opera singer, though they have said it is not a musical per se. In the same interview, they revealed they are also working on a sword and sandals drama film set in ancient Rome. In August 2015, it was announced that Warner Brothers had optioned the film rights to Ross MacDonald's novel Black Money for the Coen brothers to potentially write and direct. In October 2016, The Hollywood Reporter reported that the Coens would work on the screenplay for Dark Web, a Fox project based on Joshua Bierman's two-part Wired article about Ross Ulbricht and his illicit Silk Road online marketplace. The project originated in 2013, with novelist Dennis Lehane on board for the screenplay. Chernin Entertainment will produce, in their first project for television. The Coens are expected to work on a Western genre miniseries, produced by Annapurna Television, with the title The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. Production company. The Coen brothers' own film production company, Mike Zoss Productions, located in New York City, has been credited on their films from Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Onwards. It was named after Mike Zoss' drugs. The brothers' beloved hangout when they were growing up in the Twin Cities. The name was also used for the pharmacy in No Country for Old Men. Directing distinctions. Up to 2003, Joel received sole credit for directing and Ethan for producing, due to Guild rules that disallowed multiple director credits to prevent dilution of the positions. Significance. The only exception to this rule is if the co-directors are an established duo. Now that they are able to share the director credit as an established duo, the Coen brothers have become only the third duo to be nominated for the Academy Award for Best Director. The first two pairs to achieve this were Robert Wise and Jerome Robbins, who won for West Side Story in 1961, and Warren Beatty and Buck Henry, who were nominated for Heaven Can Wait in 1978. Only 6 other directors have won 3 Oscars for the same film, a distinction the duo shares with Billy Wilder, James L. Brooks, Francis Ford Coppola, James Cameron, Peter Jackson and later Alejandro González Iñárritu in 2015, with 8 Academy Award nominations for No Country for Old Men, including Best Picture, Director, Adapted Screenplay, and Film Editing. Roderick Jaynes. The Coen brothers have tied the record for the most nominations by a single nominee, counting an established duo as one nominee for the same film. Orson Welles set the record in 1941 with Citizen Kane being nominated for Best Picture, Director, Actor, and Screenplay, with Herman J. Mankiewicz. Warren Beatty received the same nominations, first for Heaven Can Wait in 1978 and again in 1981 with Reds. Alan Menken also then achieved the same feat when he was nominated for Best Score and triple nominated for Best Song for Beauty and the Beast in 1991. Collaborators. The Coen brothers often cast certain actors in their films, most frequently Frances McDormand, Joel's wife, Steve Buscemi, John Goodman, John Pollitt, and John Turturro. They have worked twice with Jeff Bridges and at least 3 times with Michael Badalucco, George Clooney, Richard Jenkins, Stephen Root, Bruce Campbell, and Josh Brolin. The Coens similarly tend to work with certain crews as well, especially Roger Deakins, Jess Gonka, Skip Liefse, and Mary Zophres. They used cinematographer Barry Sonnenfeld on their first 3 films, through Miller's Crossing, until Sonnenfeld left to pursue his own directing career. Deakins has been the Coen brothers' cinematographer for all their subsequent films except Burn After Reading, on which they employed Emmanuel Lubezki, and Inside Llewyn Davis, on which they employed Bruno Del Bonal. Sam Raimi is another frequent collaborator. He helped write The Hudsucker Proxy, which the Coen brothers directed, and the Coen brothers helped write Crime Wave, which Raimi directed. Raimi took tips about filming A Simple Plan, 1998, from the Coen brothers, who had recently finished Fargo. Both films are set in blindingly white snow, which reflects a lot of light and can make metering for a correct exposure tricky. Raimi has cameo appearances in Miller's Crossing and The Hudsucker Proxy. Raimi and the Coens met when Raimi directed The Evil Dead, 1981, for which Joel was hired as an assistant editor. Carter Burwell has scored all of the Coens' films, aside from Crime Wave, 1985, although T-Bone Burnett produced much of the traditional music in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And The Ladykillers, and was in charge of archive music for The Big Lebowski. Skip Lee F.A. handles the sound editing for all of the Coens' films. Most of the Coens' films have been credited to the editor, Roderick Jaynes. An alias which refers collectively to the two Coen brothers. Tricia Cook, Ethan's wife, was also an editor on 3 of their films: The Big Lebowski, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And The Man Who Wasn't There. After working as assistant editor on 4 of their earlier films, Miller's Crossing, Barton Fink, The Hudsucker Proxy, and Fargo, Michael R. Miller edited Raising Arizona and Miller's Crossing, directed Academy Award performances, accolades, filmography, bibliography, Cheshire, Ellen, Ashbrook, John, 2005, Joel and Ethan Coen, 3rd Revised ed., The Pocket Essential, ISBN 978-1-90404839-8. Includes all films up to The Ladykillers and some subsidiary works. Crime Wave, Down from the Mountain, Bad Santa, King, Lina Chapman, 2014. The Coen Brothers Encyclopedia, Lanham, Roman and Littlefield, ISBN 978-0108-8576-9. Joel Coen on Internet Movie Database. Ethan Coen on Internet Movie Database. Joel and Ethan Coen at Rotten Tomatoes. Coen-esque. The Films of the Coen Brothers. Video. The Films of the Coen Brothers. Compilation of movie clips. 3 minutes. Roderick Jaynes at Library of Congress Authorities. With 0 catalog records. Joint pseudonym. Ethan and Joel Coen at LC Authorities. With 27 and 20 records. Ethan and Joel Coen at WorldCat. Their 16 works most widely held by participating libraries are identical. Followed by Ethan Coen, Garden of Eden, Stories, NY, Rob Weisbach Books, 1998. OCLC 39162269.